Hey guys, thank you for joining us again for another exciting episode of YOML. Today we are doing part 3 of 5 of the same book we started the last week, which is the book called Think Like a Monk, Train Your Mind for Peace and Purpose Every Day by Jay Shetty. And today is a little bit unusual reflection title, but we'll see what it is.
We'll see how it goes. Yeah. This one is called 54321. So again, think like a monk. We talked about it the past couple times. Just a quick recap of the book. It's about this former monk. His name's Jay Shetty. Well, I guess he's still a monk, but this guy that used to live in an ashram and trained to be a professional monk, I guess, if you will, ones that are the traditional, live in a monastery and do whatever they do in a monastery every day, and monk stuff, right? He decided to leave and went out into the world to go practice his monk
His monkness.
his monkness amongst the people down in the valley floor, and that's how. And then he wrote a book about it, called Think Like a Monk. It's about kind of taking what he learned and applying it to your everyday life. So this particular reflection, it's called 54321. And it's something I learned similar to the stop, spot, and swap, or spot, stop, and swap that we talked about yesterday, that I really liked and I wanted to remember forever, and something that I can get better at. So, when you go to a new place or you're at an event, maybe it's a special day for one of your kids, a special day for yourself, or just a memory that you want to remember for forever, right? I don't know if you do something similar to this, but like, I'm kind of curious, how do you capture that, yourself? Like for me in the past, I would do something, I would just like try to take like a mental snapshot, and I would just kind of pause, and whether I wrote down this one, I just got back from Hawaii a few months before I wrote this reflection. And, I tried many different times at many different beaches. I went on a long run one morning and I got to this awesome beach, state park, Kahana State Park on the North Shore of Oahu. I was the only person there, and it was like 7 a.m. and I just run like 4 miles, got to the beach, and I was running along the beach, and like, it was just a beautiful setting. I was just kind of by myself in the middle of a beach park. The tide was starting to roll in, the waves were rolling in. It was gentle, and I just kind of stopped and I was like, how often do you get to do this? And when I was up on the North Shore beaches as well, and Luca was taking in a beach day for the first time of his life, kind of pause there and would take like a mental snapshot. That's how I did this stuff before. Did you do anything where you like want to remember a particular event or a moment? Is there anything that you try to deploy to remember something?
Not particularly. I usually just be present, meaning to say, so you don't think about anything else. You just be there and feel everything. You feel the air, you feel the sight, you feel the sound. You just basically go through all the senses. That's what I do. You go through all the senses. What do I see? What do I hear? What do I feel? Right? So basically go through all the senses and see the smelling. So as long as I do that, usually I remember the snapshot.
Nice.
Because the more senses you can, I guess, triggers that moment, it will come back easily.
Well, you're far ahead now. This is exactly
What?
what this reflection is about. So Jay Shetty, my little mental snapshot game that I would do, it was usually really only focused on the visuals. Like, just try to take it all in visually and remember this, right? Without a picture for me to refer back to, it's often hard for me to remember exactly what that looked like or how that felt or the sounds or the stuff you're talking about, right? Like,
Right.
like, I want to savor those moments for forever, and I want to do it organically. I don't want to have to always take a photo, or I want to be able to go there in my mind and enjoy it. So I've never been great at that, and I've tried many, many times in my life, and it just, I don't know, I can't do it without a photo. I can't do it. So I was reading this book, and because this was during the time where I was in between jobs, so we did the dip a few weeks ago, right? You remember? So I quit my job like around this time, right? This was in between my time at Angie's or at Salesforce and starting at OSF Digital. I still had 2 weeks left on. I'd already resigned. I still had 2 weeks left at Salesforce before I told him I was departing, and I had another 3 weeks before I was going to start at OSF, just because I wanted to take a little bit extra time off. So I really had nothing to do. My living for two time when I was reading this book in particular was like, I could pretty much, Amelia and I could hang out all day long, and we could just do whatever we wanted to. If we wanted to play tennis all day long in the middle of the afternoon, we could go play tennis all day long. If we wanted to keep reading a book all day long and finish a book a day, we could do that. It was whatever we decided we wanted to do together, we could just go do whatever we wanted to do. And that's always fun and freeing feeling. Well, during this particular time, I, had more time on my hands, and it was a really nice day outside. It was in the middle of, this would have been like late July of 2022. And
You're in the picture.
right, yeah, yeah. And
Hey, which time machine? I want one.
yeah, it does go. Wait, it was this time last year almost, it was about a year ago now.
Right, 22.
Yeah, 22. Yeah. So I was on this particular day, it was a really nice day outside, and we were going to take our jog and, listening to an audiobook. And for whatever reason, I was like, you know what, we're gonna do a Riley run today. Meaning, we were gonna run to Riley's Hospital for Children and back. And I don't know if you remember this, but like that was it's actually equivalent to a half marathon distance and length. If you run pretty much straight there and straight back, it's about 7 miles each way. The last time that I had done a Riley run, like a full Riley run, like there and back, was the day before Amelia's original due date. So July 13th of 2020 was when I did my first and only original Riley run, which was like a full half marathon that we ran there and back to kind of honor her life and symbolically, in a lot of ways, finish her half of her marathon, because she, was supposed to be born on that day, the next day,
Right.
the following day. And it had been a really long time since I had done that. So I was like, you know what, today, on this particular day, I was like, let's do it. So I'm running along. It's about 7 miles to get there on the first, half of the journey. And I'm listening to Think Like a Monk on an audiobook and enjoying the hell out of it. I'm like, oh, yeah. Oh, whoa. Oh, I like it. Oh, whoa. It's about an hour and a half, or about an hour, I would say, ish run there. During that hour portion of it, he was talking about 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And that is what you just said, is using all of your senses to ground yourself in the moment, to really absorb it. 5 things you see, 4 things you can touch, 3 things that you can hear, 2 things that you smell, and 1 thing that you taste. So that's 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And I'm listening to this, and he's describing it, and I'm in the middle of this Riley run with Amelia, and we're, just enjoying life. And I was like, you know what? When I get to Riley, I was like, instead of keeping going, I'm just going to stop, and we're going to try to do this exercise because I'm so bad at historically doing this stuff. So on this particular run that day, I got to Riley Hospital for Children and sat there on the front steps of it and just turned the book off, grounded myself, slowed my heart rate. And and Amelia and I, took in the moment, and I wrote it down on here, what it was like. So I did, 5 things I see. I was like, I see, Amelia opening her eyes for the first time, and me being the first thing that she saw. I saw the little lion picture on the wall facing her isolette. I saw the Sheltie stuffed animal that I smuggled into the corner cabinet that I wasn't supposed to be there. I can see this little Sheltie that's kind of stuck in there. I saw my daughter, just snuggling her little blankets in her isolette. And I saw all the monitors and, vital signs and all the machines that were keeping her alive. Then I did 4 things you could touch. I could feel the touch of her little tiny hand on her last day before we decided to extubate her. I didn't ever really touch her hand a lot because I was always afraid I was going to get her sick. Those last few days, I guess we didn't really hold back from touching her just because we could kind of all see like things were not great. So that's probably the most time I ever just held her little hand, and then I could feel the whole kangaroo experience where she was actually on me, and that was I wish I would have done that more often, but I didn't, but I could feel the faux leather chair recliner that I would sit in all the time right next to her isolette. And then I could feel the equipment, just touching it. I would always go over and kind of touch the equipment and get to know it and feel it and think about it. And then I did the sounds, the 3 things I could hear. And I wrote all this stuff down afterwards just so I could kind of capture it. The beeps and the dings and the dongs from the monitors, and the nurses always saying how cute she was, and fighting to take care of her, fighting over who gets to take care of her. And then I could hear a little heartbeat from the last day that, for life, when they recorded her heartbeats from that whole experience. And then 2 things I smelled hospital cleanliness, and I smelled the gross hospital meals. It just always smells so clean in there. And I hate that smell. I fucking hate it.
It smells of cleaning agent, whatever that is.
Yeah.
It's a
It's
hospital
like
smell.
chlorine or something. I don't even know. It
Yeah.
just always smells sterile. And then the last one was 1 thing you can taste. And I wrote down I could taste the green goddess salad that my wife Felicia and I ordered from this delivery service called Cluster Truck while we were waiting for her first big surgery. I just remember sitting outside eating that, but we both ordered the same thing, and it was a really good salad. And it was kind of took our mind off of what we were waiting on, and yeah, I enjoyed our Riley run and, soaked it in and was able to document it here. I try to do this every once in a while. I'm glad we're going through this stuff, because like the spot, stop, and swap, the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, like that's why I wrote this shit down, right? Like this is why I do this stuff, because I wanted to remember to do these things and get better at it in the future. So anyway, that's the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and how I applied it. And the question was, how do you ground yourself in moments you want to remember forever? And you were already talking about how you do it, so it sounds like you already know how to do this thing.
I mean, for me, that's what I naturally do. I didn't learn it from anyone. But now going through this list here reminds me of the time when we're talking about walking with Einstein, the memory palace. What I do is I just naturally do that. because I always want to be present. When you want to be present, it's like, okay, don't think about anything except for that moment, which is what can you do at that moment? Like if you look, what do you see? I don't constrain myself in terms of finding 5 things to do. I just say, okay, what things catch my attention? I see the sunset, the waves, the people, the houses, the sand, whatever it is. And then I close my eyes and say, what do I hear? I hear the ocean. I hear the seagulls. I hear the people talking. I hear some kind of train go by. I basically, whatever comes. But the thing is, that is enough. I would say that's enough for you to record that moment perfectly.
Right.
It's like having a photographic memory. If you can do that,
If you can do it well, yeah.
Right. The thing is, if you get to the habit of doing that, and for me is, I try to be present because for me, I understood that if you think about tomorrow too much, the only thing it does for you, it gives you anxiety. I'm not saying it don't plan for the future, but don't take it too seriously. Don't take too much weight on what you say. Hey, I want to do something tomorrow. And it's okay if things change. But if you premeditate on that thought, and when things changes, it is within your expectations, so you don't get riled up because hey, I want to go on a run tomorrow, or I want to go jog with Amelia tomorrow, whatever that you do, right? If you say this is what I plan on doing, and you say this is what I had committed to, and I need to get it done, whatever, that kind of thinking, in my experience, has created a lot of anxiety because things will come into your lives. I'm about to be late. Can I even make it? Or if the trains, can I even make the train? And to start to run for trains.
Right.
So a lot of those things would take away your ability to be present. And in order to remember anything, you have to be present. Otherwise, it's all fabricated because you just imagine things. You just imagine, because the thing is, you're not here. Let's say let's say me and my family goes on a vacation. Let's say we go to Cozumel, Mexico, right? And she and I had a fight, and we sat on the best, beautiful beaches in Cozumel. Do you think my memory is of the beach or is something else? Because I have no experience of what I was at the beach, right? I have no memory of it. I have no memory of what I did because I had this other situation that's in my head, and I fabricated all that. My mind did it. So you cannot remember anything unless you can be present. And in order to be present, well, what do you see? The thing is, I was saying a lot of time, like when you go to work, like before this COVID thing, you go to work, right? You will go from work to home and home to work, and you don't even know how you did it. You just are on autopilot, and you say, well, what kind of color car was next to you at the red light at Main Street?
Man, there was times when I would drive home and I literally wouldn't even know that I was driving until I pulled into my driveway. And I was like, oh my God, I'm here.
It's because your mind's to someone else. It's you're not present.
Right.
And so that means the whole time when you were driving, you're in a fabricated universe.
I wasn't know where I was.
The memory is there because you never register any of the experience. So you have to experience it and say, what do I feel? What do I see? What do I hear? Whatever the conditions it is that you can come up when I'm here, right? What is around me? What do I see? What do I hear? What do I taste? The wind is just, stuff like that. You just basically, take it in and just let it in as if you're this third person spectator, and you say, well, what happened to this guy?
Right.
And you look at that, right? Then it's actually pretty easy to remember because that's how our brains work. Our human works like that. We don't remember the concept. We remember the image because the image relates to the way our brain processes the signals. Right. And so for me is I've been able to do that for the most part. That's like, and I think that's also part of the reason why I'm pretty good in chemistry. Because chemistry is our imagination, right?
Good point.
You look at all the chemicals.
Science is just all pure imagination.
Yeah. And orientation, you can spin me around and throw me in the middle of nowhere. I can orient it myself. I know how to, for whatever reason, I can orient myself. I know what directions, right? So So when I park a car, right, usually I know where it is. Right, I have this homing device.
Right.
Right. Most people, my wife and my kids don't. They say, I don't know where we
I
are.
don't know where we're. Yeah. Yeah.
But that's the
I'm with
thing
you.
is, it's just a habit, right? Just a
Yeah.
habit. If you, because the thing is the habit of, okay, when you park your car, well, you notice things around you.
Yeah.
Then it's easy to recall. Say, well, I parked by. Oh, there's some kind of tree over there.
Right.
You go over there. But if you are in another universe, you're not present. There's no way you can remember. To remember it, to re-experience it. Can you have enough information to re-experience that event?
Right. Yeah, I totally agree with this. Obviously, I will say one thing about the whole 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 thing is I found it to be a little too much,
A little bit coarse. It's a bit
right.
coarse.
Yeah.
That's why I don't constrain myself to find
Right.
things. I say,
Right.
well, whatever jumps at me, this is what I recall, right? If I like the sunset, the water, or the lady in red,
Right.
whatever that is, that it triggers your mind, then you take it in and you store it. Don't
Right.
store things.
To be so rigid, about
Well,
it.
it's
Like,
rigid.
right.
It's coarse. When you force it, you are essentially taking part of your focus and attention away from the present itself.
Yeah, I remember that with this particular event, sitting there on that stoop, going, okay, all right, what do I need? I need to hear. Is it 3 things I need to hear? Like, I couldn't remember, and I'm like, okay, what do I hear? I can only hear one thing, and I'm like,
When you recall that,
right.
when you recall that experience, you recalling trying to do the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 more
Right.
than the things you're supposed to try to do.
I
So
do,
because
yeah, right,
so when you experience it, the prominently you're gonna recall that you're trying to do that, not this, because everything else you did was secondary. Just
yeah,
be present, like
yeah,
presence. Like don't think about the future. What is happening right now, right? Just ask yourself, hey, I want to take in everything. Well, how do I take it in? Well, I like this, I like that. Whatever it is, you take it in
mhm,
without forcing it, because you want to focus primarily on the moment.
right.
Because if the moment isn't the primary focus, like you're trying to do something, because that becomes the primary objective, and then the
It
moment
does.
becomes secondary.
No, it really does. I mean, that was one of the reasons why I liked this, of trying to, like you said, take in more senses than I normally would.
You take more, as much as you can, as
Just
much
take
as
in
things
what you
that
can. Yeah,
triggers.
right. Yeah,
Yeah,
right.
I mean, if you for me, it's my sight and my sound and my feeling, my sense of like I feel the wind, I feel the
Connectedness,
heat,
or
whatever. Right, I feel like, hey, I'm free or whatever. Those feelings are it triggers, and so for me, those three senses are very strong, because
right.
for me, it probably make up like 90-95% of all the other like other senses, right? The other
Mhm.
senses for me, like, isn't as prominent. And so I just use three, right? For most of the thing, I just use my sight is probably like 60%, right? And my hearing is probably like another 20%, and then
The
my
taste and the
feeling,
smell, like, it's so hard.
taste and
Taste
smell.
alone. I don't even know how you,
The thing is,
like,
it depends. Like if you in
you're eating
if
like
you're
a
on the
meal,
if you're on the beach, right? If you're on the
Right.
beach, yes. But if on the beach, like, sometimes the smell isn't significant enough. Like, let's say you're in
Right.
a garden, right? You have this aroma from the flower, or you're in some
Sure.
kind of nearby restaurant where you love the taste of barbecue. For example, I love
Mhm.
barbecue sticks, right? So whenever I'm in the vicinity, then yes, because you use what you got. You just can't
Right.
force yourself to say, okay, am I in a place of nowhere and I'm trying to remember the hospital smell? Say, I want to remember the hospital smell.
No,
That's
I
not
agree.
something I want. That's not something I want to save into my memory. So
I
for
agree.
me,
Yeah.
is I pick and choose, be selective of things that mean something to you,
Right. Yeah.
versus trying to force it. So I think, this one, for me, it's partially good, but I think it's too much in terms of trying to force it into a rigid
Yeah.
structure. It's two
Right. Yeah.
structures, right?
Yeah. Yeah. No, I tend to agree. Like, I enjoyed it. I like the idea of it, and I know that I can do better. Not better. Better is the wrong word. I know that I want to take in more, in moments that I want to remember more. Not beyond just visually. And
Right, because I
seeing.
think I think that's the thing is, to experience.
Right.
You have to involve more of your senses and to be present,
Right.
because otherwise it's fabricated. Fabricated memory is, your mind doesn't have this commitment to it. It doesn't have this loosely like reference to it, and eventually it'll forget because it wasn't committed. But if you already committed, for example, like when you understand how things work, like I told you, I understand how caffeine affects me. I am committed. There's no questions in my mind. My mind isn't
Right.
questioning. It's not doubting at all. Therefore, it committed. So it's a basic story. But
Right.
once you commit it, you understand. Then it's easy for you to take it and put it into your storage easily. So something with the understanding of how do you remember, how your brain works in terms of remember, it's gonna be easy for you to continue to build on the habits, because a lot of time people forget about where they park, or what they have for dinner. Because for me, it's like I don't have a good memory of things I don't care about because I forget them. But there's certain
I'm
things
with you.
I
Yeah.
remember exactly. I can tell you like perfectly what happened with the details and everything.
You think
Well, yeah, in a way. I mean, yes and no. I think I do, but
right.
it also reaffirms to me in terms of the test people give me. Hey, go to school and people test you about certain
Right.
thing, right? I can record them, which is, they say it's correct, which is I say, okay, if you say it's correct, then this is where the
Sure.
A's comes from.
Right.
Right? Because I told you, I can remember all the molecules. I can remember the periodic table. I can remember all the compound. I can remember all the concepts. I
Right.
can't remember anything about Asian history.
Do you just
And
not care at all about your own cultural history? Or do you not consider that a part of your life anymore?
well, I think I'm not committed to understanding it because I don't believe that it is accurate.
Interesting.
Maybe I'm wrong, but that's how I believe. The thing is, it all comes down to the belief. If you're not committed to believing it, then you think this is basically a bunch of fabricated stories. And
Right.
if you don't have a thought of having it as a benefit to you, then it's just nothing to care about. And when you do that, when you have that attitude, right? Then your mind will say, well, if True doesn't care, that means this wasn't important. So I don't need to waste my brain cells trying to collect it and put it into memory. So same
Right.
thing with you asking me, hey, what I did on Sunday, on Saturday. I don't remember. What did you eat? I don't remember. I don't really care, right? So it wasn't.
Honestly, I don't remember a lot of these things either. I mean, I either remember if I had a good day or not a good day. Well, I guess every day is a good day for the most part. But yeah, you're right. Like, I don't, if it was like an extraordinary day or not, like I'll remember that, But like if you squeeze me and say, like, what'd you do exactly? Oh, I don't know. I mean, I guess I listened to a book. I don't know what book it was. I'm sure,
Because the thing is that
I
that's what I'm
wrote a little
saying
bit. I
is
don't know what
how
I
your
wrote
brain
about,
works, right?
Right.
How your brain works. Because if you tell yourself, which is the brain, you're training the elephant. The
Right.
elephant doesn't know. All it does is say, well, is this guy have this emotion about something? If there is an emotion about something, oh, I think he says it's important.
Right.
He indicate
I
this
want
is
to remember
important.
it. Right.
He's gonna remember, and it's going to do wonders. Right?
Mhm.
Whatever addiction you have, right? As long as you can find a understanding and be able to commit to it without doubting. It once you doubt that, right? The elephant doesn't understand. It's gonna doubt it. But like I say, I told you I could not quit caffeine. I did twice, right? In
Right.
my early 20s and late 20s and early 30s. I could not do it.
I don't
But
know how you actually avoid caffeine even still. Like, I mean, I know that you can not want to drink caffeine, but like it feels like it's in everything. Like, cocoa, like chocolate. Do you eat chocolate? Oh, I guess you don't eat chocolate, do you?
I eat
Right.
mainly meat
Meat and yeah.
and the basic condiment like cayenne peppers, garlic, onions, cilantro, spring onions, mushroom. But as far
Yeah.
as everything else, I can't even drink tea that has caffeine. I can only
Right.
drink tea that doesn't have caffeine. I can't even drink. The thing is, I can drink, but I will notice it because it'll keep me up all night.
Right. I mean,
Because
there's just so
before
many.
I drink like 10 times the caffeine amount, and I can sleep in 5 minutes after I drink this shots, right?
Right.
Whatever shot you give me, I can drink it and I can sleep in the next 10-15 minutes.
Right.
Now you give me like a slight bit of caffeine, I stay up all night. My body has reset its sensor threshold.
Yeah. No. No. I'm with you actually on that because I'm on day 2 of of or day 3, I guess, of no caffeine, and I feel I'm kind of groggy.
For me, the caffeine that I try to quit, when I read the book, I just, for whatever reason, it triggers me. It picks me. It said, hey, I understand now. I just quit from that moment, the moment I read it. Another thing is the don't run for train. That thing, I pick it up right away.
Yeah.
Like, oh, don't run for train. I like it. I'm not running for train. I don't care.
Yeah.
If I'm sorry.
You are right. So one quick thought though, like in the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, I still like, it reminds me of these reflections, and whenever I just read this one right before we got on this call, I went back in my mind to that run. I know exactly what street I was running down. I remember listening to this. I remember the sweat coming down my face and tasting it in my mouth and going, okay, we're gonna try this thing when we get to Riley. I remember sitting on the stoop, and I remember seeing people walking by me on the street. I remember trying to remember 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 and thinking really hard about what I wanted to do and not do. But I guess what my point is, though, is if I hadn't written this down, I could have told you this. But like, this is why I still struggle. I need some sort of a trigger to remember that memory. You know what I mean? Like something that's tangible in this world that I can go latch onto. Like that's why photos take me immediately back to wherever we are. These kind of things, like I literally can feel myself on that day.
But the thing is, it's also the case where you wrote all this, and then when you go back and read it, you didn't remember a single thing.
I
Even
don't.
though
I didn't remember what I wrote about, but I remember as soon as I read it, I'm like, oh, I feel like I get immersed back into it. And
because there's certain thing that you do, that memory is still there. It is stored. It's just that you need to have a key to open it, a trigger.
Right.
But
exactly.
some instances, like you like, there's certain thing that you told me that, hey, we did this together, and I say I have no idea what you're talking about, because that completely wiped from my memory, because I never stored it. There's a lot of things that I just don't remember. That means like there's nothing you can do to make me recall that memory. So there's certain thing, like for example, in writing this thing, right? You have to experience it, right? You have indicate to your brain, to your elephant, that this is important to me. That's why the memory comes back, right? And because of this memory, it stores in these blocks. And then whenever there's a trigger, which is a key to open it, then you can access all that. Oh, I remember the sweat. I remember doing this. I remember doing that. And so that is also part of the way that your brain works. And so to have a habit, right, is to be present in the things that you do, but also have a constant trigger. A constant trigger is you have the key with you all the time. So whatever that is, for you and me today, it's like we have got to the point where around this time, right? Around this time, your body, your elephant knows that, hey, we're looking forward to a great discussion. And sometimes if you gone, let's say we have this vacation or whatever, you're going on a day, you say, well, it feels weird. It's not doesn't feel like normal. So it feels weird because the elephant is trying to say, well, we're supposed to do something. It's triggering me. Right. And so there are certain things that if you can carry the key with you long enough, then the important thing will always trigger.
I agree. It's interesting. I'm gonna have to keep thinking about this one, because this is why I wanted to do this 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, right? It's because I want to be able to, I want this to be the trigger to be able to remember these things. And I think after this conversation and my experience, because I've only tried this once, because I forgot about it, to be honest with you.
Because it's forced. You're forcing it.
It was forced.
It wasn't in a flow. Because when you require some willpower, that stops you from doing the next thing. It wasn't like just, smooth streamline, right? It just, you kind of get.
You know what this reminds me of? A couple of weeks after Amelia, maybe a couple of months after Amelia had passed away, I wasn't crying very often, and I thought that was weird, because I knew I was sad, but I wasn't crying a lot. And I was going down to my parents' lake house one day, and I thought, I'm going to try to intentionally be sad. And I was in these back country roads by myself, in Indiana, with cornfields all around me. It was in the middle of the summertime, and the stalks were almost like felt like you're in a tunnel, right? And you're just driving through cornfields on the way down to my parents' lake house. I was kind of by myself, and I rolled down all the windows. It was a nice day, and I turned on some sad music and just tried to think of Amelia. And I felt weird. Like I was like, this doesn't feel natural. It doesn't feel right. And I was like, I feel like there's something fucking wrong with me or something like that. Because I was like, I I can't just force myself into a state of sadness, and crying while I'm driving in my car, or something along those lines. It didn't feel like that. This is what that feels like, is when I think about that experience and what I'm describing to you now. It just feels like I'm trying to remember something versus remembering something, or I'm forcing it onto myself to be like, okay, take in this moment, dickhead. You know what I mean? Like, stop, you piece of shit.
That's not how you train the elephant. You imagine
right.
that, hey, you put in barbed wire electrical fence, around. It doesn't stop the elephant. You cannot train the elephant that way because the elephant doesn't speak that language. And so you cannot force your brain, because like I say, the way our brain works and the way our elephant works is like, it doesn't understand negative. It's like, don't think of a white elephant. So meaning you have to think of a white elephant, then remove it. That's how it processes.
Right.
So when you negate an object, it has to put an object into the center, into focus. And then you say negate that. I mean, you put it into the center focus, then removes it. That is how it processes. It doesn't say, hey, I don't need to do anything since there's nothing there. It doesn't do that, because if I mention elephant, your mind say, okay, that's the elephant. If I tell you there's a yellow lemon, I say there's no yellow lemon. Then remove it. That's how your brain works.
If I tell you to soak it all in, you're gonna go, oh God, I gotta soak it all in. Like I'm feeling all the feels, and experiencing all the senses. Like I think it just needs to be organic. It's like, just stop and feel, and that's it. Like don't
be
structure
present, right?
Exactly.
Just be present. What does that mean? It's like, okay, I'm here today at this moment, right? Experience. What can I experience? That's it. I mean, just let your body do its thing. Just tell the elephant a simple command. You tell them like complex command that it doesn't understand, it's going to mess it up, and then you're gonna say, "Why?" And then elephants, and then you get mad at elephant. The elephant say, "Okay, I did something wrong, so I'm not gonna do it again." But if you, I mean, just like if you have trained a dog or an elephant or a horse or whatever, you're gonna see that it's actually pretty easy to kind of relate how our brain works, because our brains is not far away from an animal. Because we'll have more complex brain, but we still have this primitive brains that the elephant, you have to be able to train it in a way that it process the information. So you can't really, for example, people say, hey, let's say your kids go and eat in their rooms. So there's two ways to get them to eat at a dinner table. Hey, don't eat in your rooms, or eat at a dinner table. Because when you say don't eat it, they always say, well, you say eat room, okay? Go to the room. Regardless of what you say, right? You say eat table, you go to the table, because that's how it process. And it's easy for it to process that way. So if you understand how your brain works, or how you like for us as a company members, if we can write a book about how to train an elephant, it's easy to kind of transition into training yourself to be your best self, which is whatever your brains, your elephant, it is conditioned to do. It is easy for you to kind of like lead them using the same concept that we understand and know, because right now it can't understand the language that you say. And you keep looking at him and you yelling at him and say, hey, don't do that.
Take it all in now. Like, I mean, that's really what I felt like I was doing on this particular scenario, where it's like, okay, feel, you're sitting on the sidelines just yelling at your elephant, feel something, damn it. It just doesn't work that way. Like, it's not how it works.
Man, it doesn't go into his ears, right? He look at you and all he see is somebody's yelling at him.
Right. What am I doing wrong? I'm not doing anything.
Like,
I'm not trying to...
And he basically, he's shy into a corner. That's what you're trying to do. So if it feels weird, right? It's not gonna last.
Well, I don't do this all the time, obviously, either. Now, like, once again, I think there is a modification to this of just absorb around you and
be present. I mean, as simple as I can say, just be present. What does that mean to you? Be present. What does that mean to you? You do that.
Agreed.
I'm not telling you how to be present. I tell you how to meditate. Meditate the way you think about how meditation should work.
Exactly. I think you're spot on that. All right. I think I'm officially out of thoughts for this one, though. You think you talked me out of it. Good. Thank you, because that was good. I appreciate it.
Well, sometimes I have my moments.
Yeah.
Occasionally, maybe sometimes.
Any final thoughts for yourself for the night? Any final thoughts for the night?
Be present as much as you can, because to me, that is what life is about.
Agreed. I like that. It's a good way to end. So the question we can leave for everybody is, how do you ground yourself in moments you want to remember forever, or just whatever your elephant tells you to do? Love to hear about it. Thanks for joining, and we'll see you tomorrow night for part 4.
See ya.